Mr. President, I rise today to commemorate those that we lost on September 11th of 2001, to remember how our nation responded to the pain we felt that day when a towering display of heroism, and to urge us to rededicate ourselves to making sure we never have to experience terror on our soil again. That day, the families and friends of nearly 3,000 Americans got the worst news imaginable, and 700 of them almost were from my home state of New Jersey. They were from all walks of life. We lost mothers, fathers, and children. Brothers lost their sisters. Neighbors lost their friends. Today in New Jersey, you can go from town to town, from Englewood to West Windsor, Toms River, Mantua, and Hoboken, and you can see a ceremony in each one. Families in those towns are laying flowers on the gravestones and monuments and holding tightly one more time onto the pictures of the ones they lost. So many communities were affected in so many ways, not the least of which was the American community. It felt like a day when there were no borders between us. Terrorists tried to engulf us in the smoke of fear and hatred, and for a moment we felt like the whole world went dark. But the light of heroism burst through. Individuals rushed into burning buildings, risking their lives to save others. Strangers opened up their homes to help people they didn't even know. Men and women all over the country rushed to give whatever they could to help those in need. It was a day when we learned the meaning of Oscar Wilde's words when he said, "Where there is sorrow, there is holy ground." It was a day when it didn't matter what part of the country you came from, what your family background was, or anything else. It was a day when we all stood together as Americans. And people from all over the world said, "We are Americans today." There was a time when the events of September 11th gripped us so strongly that our minds couldn't focus on anything else. Yet 7 years later, we have to talk about the dangers of forgetting. We have to talk about the dangers of forgetting because 7 years later, our obligations have not gone away. Our obligations have not gone away to those who we lost and to their families, and those who survived the attacks but came away injured. For them, it has been a long and heroic struggle to get by and find some sense of normal. People who ran out of burning buildings, and the firefighters, EMTs, and other rescue workers who ran in, all who breathed thick air as they were saving lives. And today they're reminded of what they have to face with literally every breath that they take. We think about them very deeply today, but those heroes triumph every day. Their supply of courage has never run out, and we can never walk out on them. So not forgetting, Mr. President, means caring for those who we lost and their families and remembering them, but also it means caring for those who were made ill because of the attacks. Not forgetting means supporting all the heroes, paid and volunteer, who risked their lives to save others. Not forgetting means securing our ports, chemical and nuclear plants, so we don't have to experience another horrendous tragedy in the future. Getting federal grant money to our communities based on the risks that they face. Getting firefighters the funding they need for new equipment and increased personnel. Making sure our first responders can talk to each other during an emergency. And let us be very clear. Not forgetting means destroying the terrorist network that planned the attacks and bringing those responsible to justice. Today, September 11th of 2008, we remember what's been lost, and we find strength in what we still have. No amount of time can ultimately heal what has been seared into our hearts and minds since September 11th. But those wounds continue to drive us to make sure that no New Jerseyan, no American, ever has to experience them again. If we come together now, as we did on one of the darkest days of our history, then I believe our future can be filled with security, prosperity, and hope. And on this day in which we remember that darkest day, we can see the light, and our brightest days can yet to come. Once again, my thoughts and prayers for the 700 New Jerseyans who were lost on that fateful day, for their families who live with this for the rest of their lives, and for which this day has an incredible resonance in their lives far beyond anyone can imagine. But for votes here in the Senate, I would be in New Jersey today, and I wanted to take to the floor to let them know that we are one with them on this most sacred day. Mr. President, I yield the floor and observe the absence of a quorum.